Hi, everyone. Is it possible to share some slides?
Yeah, of course,
definitely.
Okay. Well, hi, everyone. So I'm Eleonore. I'm a recruitment manager at HCC Paris. So I'm really happy to be here with you to present the Master in Management that we have at HEC. I know that the time is quite short. I have like 10 minutes to present it, so I will try to be concise and make it impactful. I will start just with a quick presentation of HCC Paris, and then I will dive into the program. So just a few words about HCC Paris. So at HCC Paris, we offer a wide range of programs. The Master in Management is a pre-experience program, so it's really geared towards students between 0 and 2 years of work experience. If you have more than 3 years of work experience, in this case, your profile might be a better fit for an MBA program. And if you have even more experience, in this case, an executive program with more than 10 years of experience can be a good fit. We also have non-degree programs like the PhD that are more designed for research, and summer school programs that can be a good taste before committing into a master program. I'm not going to spend too much time on these slides because Karishma, you told about the rankings, but I just want to highlight one ranking, that is the fact that we are ranked third by the Alma Mater Index, which means that behind Stanford and Harvard, we're the third school in the world to train CEOs in their own industry. So it shows you how leadership is important for us at the HEC. It's something that we're going to evaluate in the admission process, but also something that we're going to teach you. And if you look just below at the facts and figures, you can see that we have 4,500 students enrolled in degree programs. So it's all the programs that I showed you previously. And it's also a very international environment because we have 105 different nationalities on the campus. And last but not least, but I'd like to highlight the fact that we have 60,000 alumni. So more than a number, I think that you need to keep in mind that it's a really dynamic network. We have alumni everywhere in the world, and they're really great support during your study, but also after for your career placement and to help you with your career. This slide just shows you what set HCC apart and what set also our Master in Management apart from other programs. So there are 3 elements, I think. The first one is the high quality standards. So it means that we try to maximize the class hours and minimize the class sizes. So you will never be more than 50 students per classes. It can be even less for some elective courses. And our courses are only taught by main instructors. So we have no assistant teachers. 50% of them are research faculty and 50% of them are practitioners. So this is my second point, that we have a perfect balance between theory and practice. What is important for us is to give you I would say, the strong foundation, theoretical foundation that you need, but also the practical approach that will allow you to transfer smoothly into your professional life. So by practical approach, I mean that the fact that your courses are going to be taught by practitioners, but also that you will have real life case studies, consulting projects, company projects throughout the year at HCC Paris. And finally, we also have an inspiring environment, so a strong campus social life with a lot of associations, sports clubs, and really, yes, a lot of interaction between students from different programs.
We don't see your presentation. It's blank. I thought that it was me.
Okay, well, sorry.
I thought that it was my computer. So okay, I want to say anything.
Okay, well, no matter. You can just see that those 3 points I was just talking about are their quality standards, perfect balance between theory and practice, and the inspiring environments thanks to association clubs that you have on the campus, because you need to keep in mind that your schoolmates today are going to be your business partners maybe tomorrow. We have also a lot of networking events on the campus. So it's fairs, a lot of also of conferences, projects with companies, and also for a personal development program.
Okay.
So this is the most important part. So no matter if you don't see my screen before, because we're going to deep dive into the Master in Management program. So just to begin with the class profile. So in this program, we have 250 international students. So we try to have a well-balanced diversity. So it represents 64 different nationalities and also well-balanced diversity in terms of backgrounds. Because you can see that we welcome students, of course, from business and engineering backgrounds, but also students from other backgrounds like humanities, sciences, political sciences, and many others. The other point is that the average age of this program is 23, so it shows you that it's really an undergraduate program towards students between 0 and 3 years of work experience. And we also welcome students from, different nationalities. You can see on this slide the Gmat average score that we have. Maybe we are going to talk a bit more about it with your questions. But yes, it's the average that we have for this, the average of the admitted students score for this program. About the program structure, so this program is a 2-year program. So you start with a first year that is a generalist phase, and then you have a specialization phase during the second year. And you can have a gap year in between. It's really important for you to enhance your work experience, as work experience is not a prerequisite to enter in this program. So during the generalist phase, you'll have some core courses, but you can also try to start to customize this year. And I think it's also one important point about this program, that it's very customizable. Yes, you will be able to pick out some electives between business, digital strategy, international affairs, and social innovation. Well, if you still see my screen, you can see some examples of courses just below. Those are examples, so keep in mind that the academic team try to make the program as pertinent as possible. So it's possible that the courses from a year to another can evolve. Yes, to make it as pertinent as possible and to correspond to the needs of the job markets. And because of this practical approach, we'll also have some fact project, consulting projects, and a lot of interaction with companies throughout the year. Then during the second year, the specialization phase, you will have the different options. You can choose to stay at HCC Paris. In this case, you can pick one of our specializations. So you can get specialized in strategic management, in finance, marketing, sustainability, and social innovation, and many others. Or you can choose to do a double degree with one of our partner university. In this case, you will have a degree from HCC, a diploma from HCC, and a diploma from the partner university. So we have partnerships with universities like MIT, like Berkeley, like HKUST, and many others. You can find some of them just on these slides. And in the partner university, you get also a specialization. Or you can choose also to do the SEMS program. In this case, you will do 1 semester at HCC Paris and 1 semester in one of the SEMS partner university. And to finalize the second year, you can do also a certificate. So the certificate is also the way to enhance your expertise in one field. So you can pick one of those 8 certificates. And yes, it's also a way to get a connection with companies, because those certificates are designed by HCC faculties and by companies. Like, for example, the Excellence in Client Experience one is designed with LVMH, and the Luxury one with Kering. So once again, a way to strengthen your experience, have strong connections with companies. And I'm just going to end this quick presentation with the career path after the Master in Management. The programs offer a lot of different specialization. The career placements are quite also wide. We have about 40% of the students who choose consulting, about 1/4 of the students who choose financial services, and for the other one, it can be as diverse as going into consumer goods, industry, luxury fields. So you can also see the employed rate after 3 months. So we have 96% of the graduates employed within 3 months. And for the 4 remaining persons, it's students who choose to do a research or PhD. And some students, and most of the students, choose to stay in Europe, in France, or at least in Europe. But we also have students who who choose to go back in their home country or to work outside from France. Yes, I think it's the end of my presentation, and we'll have Q&A time. But if you have any question after this presentation about the admission process, about the programs or anything, you can just contact us at this email address, admissionsmasters@hec.fr.
So basically, Karishma, what are the questions that students are asking?
Mostly, let's talk about the Gmat onwards. So that I saw it was 708. Am I right? So can we talk more about that, because that's quite
yes. It's I think the question that you have, one of the questions that we have the most for the students, the Gmat score, and what is the minimum score that we accept. Students need to keep in mind that we have a holistic approach when reviewing the application. So the Gmat score is going, of course, to be important, but not only the Gmat score, the academic excellence, the international exposure, also the work experience that includes internship and extracurricular activities, and their motivation is also going to be important. So it's really a well-balanced combination of all the factors that is going to be important for us. So that's why we don't ask for a minimum score at the Gmat, but the 708 average score give them an idea of the score they can target to be admitted in the long-term in the program. But for example, if they have an outstanding GPA and maybe a Gmat that is a bit lower, it can be totally fine, and vice versa.
Okay. Let's also talk about the financial situation. What is the deal with scholarships? Are there enough scholarships for students from abroad, and is it necessary to apply in a particular round to get those scholarships? Could you please explain more?
Yes, this is a good question, because we have one scholarship that is the Afl Scholarship that is in partnership with Campus France. For this one, students need to apply during the first round. So the first round is unfortunately for this year and already passed because they need to apply before, no later than October 20th. But we have also other scholarship program, and the main one is the Hcc Foundation Scholarship. For this one, no matter the round they apply to, if they are admitted to HCC Paris, their application will be automatically reviewed for this scholarship, and it's a merit-based scholarship. So it will be all the elements of their application that is going to count for the attribution of the scholarship, and it can range from 4,000 euros to 12,000 euros. And we also have a scholarship for women, that is the Women's Potential Scholarship. For this one, it's exactly the same process as the HCC Foundation one. It's just that the amounts can range up from, it can be 15,000 euros. And I also suggest that students have a look at Campus France in India or in the country, because Campus France also offers some local scholarships for students who want to study abroad and have a lot of information to provide them.
All right. You got any questions?
Yeah, of course. I have a few. So basically, what is the current situation now? Have you noticed more applicants, fewer applicants? Is it the same as last year? What have you noticed? What are the trends?
Yes, well, it's very difficult to have a trend because we only have one round for the moment that is finished. But for the moment, we noticed that an increase in the application for this first round from international students, especially, and I think that it's because they saw the importance of continuing their studies during this time of crisis, maybe instead of getting employed right now. And I think that maybe the strong career placement of HCC Paris made them feel more confident, and that it's a safe investment for their career placement. So for the moment, the trend will be an increase.
I'm going to ask you a naughty question. I was talking, we made a seminar yesterday, and we said that, of course, there is a French model, which is the 2-year MIM, okay, that you have at ESCP, at Essec, at HEC, and at other programs like ENIO, EDEC. And then you now have the competition of new entrants, LBS, because the MIM at LBS is pretty new. The one from INSEAD, that is a 1-year program, i.e. 1-year program. So it seems that there's really a French model and an international model. Okay, what would you say to a student who hesitates between a 1-year program and a 2-year program? What is the advantage of studying 2 years versus 1 year?
Yes, no, that's really a good question. And as you mentioned, encouragement during your presentation, those programs are really designed for students with not a lot of work experience. So I would say that the strength of a 2-year program is first during the first year to have the strong foundation in business and management, to also give students time to think about their career path, career objectives, because they can start to customize their beats, but then get specialized in a very specific field during the second year. So it gives them also time to, I would say, gain the maturity. I don't know if it's the right term, but to have maturity before entering into the job markets. And also, it's also the opportunity to have a gap year in between, and the gap year is quite important for a student to enhance their professional experience, to enhance also their networks. So I think that it's quite, the 2-year program is quite complete with a generalist and specialization phase.
All right.
Okay.
There are a few questions from students. So can you talk more about the application deadline for this year, I guess?
Yes, well, we have 4 application deadlines throughout the years. So the first one was no later than October 20th, and for the second one, for example, it's January the 6th. So students need to submit the application no later than one of those deadlines that they can find also on the website. And after, they will have the admissibility results. So it's the time when they're going to know if they are going to have an interview with us. They have the interview, and then they have the final admission results. What also students need to keep in mind is that they need to apply when their application is the strongest. So with the strongest Gmat score, with the strongest elements that I mentioned previously, because, well, at each passing rounds, the number of seats decrease, but we will have seats in all the 4 rounds. So really apply when your application is the strongest.
Okay, there is one question. I'm just skipping one and I'll come back to that. So considering the current situation, are there any changes in the application process?
Yes, yes, I know that a lot of students have questions about, for example, Gmat waiver or English test waiver. To be fair with all applicants, we think that it's important to keep the test, the management and English test compulsory. But we accept online version of the test. So online Gmat or online TOEIC, for example, are accepted. So this is the main change, I would say, in the situation. And also, of course, the interview are all held online thanks to Zoom. And if there is any personal cases, just send an email to admissionsmaster@hcc.fr, and we will try to help you as much as possible for those tests.
All right. Another question from the students is, how many months of international work experience matters? Counts weight is written.
International work experience, is it the question?
International work experience.
Okay. Well, we don't ask. Well, it's not mandatory to apply with an international international work experience. If students, for example, did an exchange or did I don't know, volunteering experience abroad, it can count as international exposure and international experience. So it's totally fine for us. And they can have, for example, work experience in their own country. It's also totally fine. And by work experience, we include also experience in association, clubs, and internships. So I would say that good internships with, for example, an exchange program abroad is, well, it's a good profile. It can be element for a good profile.
All right. And I think the final question is more on tuition waivers, if any. Are there any other than the ones you've mentioned?
Yes, no, unfortunately, no tuition waiver are accepted by HCC Paris. Once again, it's the same as I would say rule. It's to be fair with all applicants. So you have some application fees. It's 110 euros, and yes, unfortunately, you can't waive them.
All right. Those are my questions from the students. So, yeah.
Okay, well.
Yes, there's a last question that we need to ask from you, Eleonore. What is the acceptance rate at your MIM, roughly?
Yes, it's a good question. So the acceptance rate, well, it's a selective process, and we look for equally competitive students, but the acceptance rate is 1 out of 7 students admissible, and then among the admissible students, it's 1 out of 3 students that are accepted in the program after the interview.
Okay. So of course, we had from experience, by the way, Leonor. So last year we had many students, and of course, remember that on round 4, because there are questions about the Gmat, etc., that HCC was quite flexible, and they accepted students without Gmat. It was the round 4. So we had André Assouline, what's his name? Cesare Campizzi. André Assouline is from France and from Brazil. Cesare from Italy. And they can be pretty flexible, but of course, they were outstanding candidates. And there are other ways of selecting candidates through their grades, their degree, the rest one was from McKinsey
Yeah, no, this is a good question because last year, due to the start of the pandemic, we were not quite used to the system. It was the beginning of the online Gmat. There was some issue with online version for some countries. So for the last rounds, we accept students without the Gmat or without the jury, but we don't want to make it as like a rule. And it was just it was just because it was the start of the pandemic, and we know that at the moment there are possibilities to have the Gmat or the GRE by any other way. So that's why it was like this last year, but not for this year.
Okay. So thank you very much, Eleonore. So probably this year, from the All MBA Center network, there will be something like 50 students from us who will apply to HEC. And we expect to have about 10 admits, something like that, 10 admits.
Well, yes, okay. We're looking forward to reading the application in this case. Okay, okay, perfect. And if they have any questions, they can just email us at admissionsmasters@hcc.
And basically what we're going to do now, we're going to send you the list of the students who have applied with their CV. You receive that this week. And then you can, we'll send you a lot of information on the Excel file.
Okay.
So that you know, by the way, we are launching a system called Outreach, whereby it's a sort of private LinkedIn, whereby you can see the CV of the student, a bit like LinkedIn, and also the student has a rating, so you can see from the rating where he stands. And so it's a very useful system using big data and artificial intelligence. Now only big data, but soon artificial intelligence as well. Okay. Thank you very much, Eleonore. Thank you. Sonia from Essec. Okay. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Basically, you're based in Singapore, from what I understand. Yeah. Are you based in Singapore? So you
right.
The Singapore Essec campus. So
yes,
we are very glad to meet you. So same thing for Essec. We have the demands for the MIM, but also a lot for the MIF. Last year we had about 5 students who got accepted to your MIF, and they are very happy. Students from Lebanon, students from Italy, from Spain, etc. So there is and also a lot of students. We did the master with Supelec, I believe. So there is the Central Supelec in data science, and also the master with Supelec, I believe, in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
If you can present yourself and also if you can make a presentation of Essec.
Sure, perfect. Well, thank you everyone. Nice to meet you all, and happy Diwali to those who celebrate. Yes, I'm based in Singapore, so I'm based in the Singapore campus in Essec, but I do handle both campus applications. So for students that actually mostly from Southeast Asia that I manage those applications, but happy to talk about the MIM programs or the MIF or data science if there's any questions about those. Let me quickly share my presentation here. Perfect. So the Essec MIM program is available in both Paris or Sergi and Singapore. Students usually can choose which campus they would like to start. I'll get into a bit of the details. Basically, a very quick introduction about Essec. We are positioning ourselves nowadays as a global business school with a French roots. Basically, we're no longer only based in France. We have 2 campuses in Paris, one in Morocco and one in Singapore, and there is also a digital campus. There are full-fledged campus and staff available in both Sergi and Singapore. So for students who choose to start in either location, they will be able to have all the support from the schools as well as from the alumni in the region. Basically, an overview of what we offer. These are the English taught program that we focus on in Singapore. Based together with MIM, there is also a Master in Finance and as well as the Data Science and the Strategy and Management of International Business, the SMIP program. At the moment, Essec MIM is ranked number 3 on Financial Times. A very quick overview of where the school is at the moment. We have about 62,000 alumni globally, and the students who graduate from Essec, generally the average salary when they complete the program is about 54,000 euros per year. So what makes Essec special? We focus a lot in learning by doing. A lot of the programs, we use this business case, games, interaction seminars, projects to give the students an experience that is enriching, not just about academic experience, but also there's a lot of hands-on practical experience during the program. One thing about the MIM is there is a lot of flexibilities involved. So students can also do internship, apprenticeship, and many other, work experience during the program. So a little bit of highlights of our career services. So not only in surgery, but also in Singapore, both career service department facilitate all students and all alumni if they need help. So we manage over 21,000 apprenticeship offers, and as well as 6,000 graduate job offers. And then we do personal counseling for every individual students if they need. And also Essec is one of the few schools that have our own venture incubator. So students who are interested to start their own venture during the program, and when they graduate from the program, we have Essec venture that is available. A quick view of established Essec alumni. So this is an example and a list of more accomplished alumni that we have from globally, from McKinsey in a managing director in Singapore to the managing director of DBS Bank in Singapore, to a range of CEOs and top level management across the world. Okay, so the MIM program. In the nutshell, there is a lot of things that is offered. I always would compare MIM to an international buffet. If you're not sure exactly what you want, this is the great program for fresh graduate students or younger students to have many different options. From double degrees to really flexible designing your curriculum, to exchanges, to chairs. So I'm going to get into a little bit of details. Basically, to imagine, the program can be as short as 15 months and can be as long as 3 to 4 years. Usually we refer it as a 2-year program because that is the standard, or average time that students will spend with us in the MIM in Essec. But you can customize your experience and you can really decide on how long you want to spend in the program. If you would like, you can graduate faster. If you would, rather spend time and take your time to get different experience, you can stretch your degree to 2 or 3 years by getting professional experience or exchange degree options. So there are 3 different criteria or 3 different buckets of experience that students will need to fulfill in order to complete the MIM degree. So the first one, of course, is the academic curriculum. All students will have to complete at least 25 courses. 10 of them are the core courses that is required. And then all the remaining are basically electives. So Essec offer 200 plus different electives option. And based on your interest, you can take, from different area. Could be marketing, it could be, operations, it could be logistic, it could be anything. And there's over 47 different specialization available. So imagine a specialization is basically like a major. Each of them usually would require 5 to 6 courses to complete the specialization. So, for example, you may be interested, or you think you may be interested in marketing or in luxury. Then you can take, one or two electives first to see, if that's something that really, what you want to do. And then if you really confirm that interest, you can continue taking the electives and then, fulfill the specialization. So students can take at least one or two or even three specialization, depending on how many courses you want to take in that area. There is no cap. I want to also highlight there's no maximum cap on how many courses that students can take. You can take as many as you like. So if you're hungry, you can take more, for example. And on top of that, there are other projects that is involved during the program. I'll get to that a bit more later. And the second bucket of requirement that students need to fulfill is the professional experience. Basically, all students require to have at least 1 year of professional experience in order to complete the MIM program. So imagine if a fresh graduate student completing their bachelor degree and join ESSEC right away for the MIM, then they will need to have at least 12 months of work experience before they can graduate from MIM. So it can be an internship, it can be an apprenticeship, it can be many different ways to fulfill this. And the order to collect these experience is also up to you as a student. So one thing about ESSEC MIM is really flexible. The last thing is, of course, the international experience. But for most international students, meaning you're non-French student, this criteria is pretty much already, fulfilled. Most students will spend time in both Singapore and France campus. There is option to do exchange or double degree also if you like to, explore different countries, but it's not a requirement anymore. So during this MIM or the master experience, basically what we require is when you apply, the students will have to start the first 9 to 10 months in the campus that you apply. It could be Singapore, it could be Cergy in France. In Singapore, because we are much smaller, so the courses are packaged together, meaning that students will be able to fulfill all the core courses that is required, and then they would have at least one of the specialization, complete during that first 10 months of the 10 months period. So the tracks that we offer in the Singapore campus, for example, the business management in Asia, corporate finance, fintech, or innovation, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. However, if students are choosing to start in France, basically you will have a number of credits that you can bid for the course that you like, and it's really flexible, and there's no criteria on how you would like to do that. So for the first 9 to 10 months, you'll be based in your home campus, the first campus that when you apply. Afterwards, students will have the option to, for example, start an internship, or they would like to, if they would like to start an exchange program. ESSEC has over 105 exchange partners, including University of Melbourne, UBC in Canada, or Tsinghua University in China, or LPS in UK, or Berkeley, or Cornell, for example. Or we also have double degree partners. So on the right-hand side here, you'll see the double degree partners. So the difference between an exchange and a double degree is usually exchange is shorter. Students will spend about 1 semester in the partner university, but the double degree is usually at least a year in the other school. So students will spend the first year in ESSEC and then perhaps the second year in the double degree university. So going back to the curriculum, after the first academic year, like the first 9 to 10 months, then students will have the option to either stay in the same campus, or they can swap to the other country. So from Singapore to France, or from France to Singapore, or they can start an internship or apprenticeship as well as they can do an exchange or double degree. Because of the flexibility and Essec, the way that we structure our module, I would say about 30+% of our students do engage in apprenticeship, and if they would like, this is a good way to finance their study while they are getting work experience sponsored by the company as well. So other than that, there are corporate projects that we design for the students, and there are, for example, the Junior Consultant Experience or the Asia Strategy Consultant Project that we work with companies directly, for example, L'Oreal or Johnson & Johnson or Capgemini, then students engage with them to do consulting projects as soon as they enter the program. And there's something I would like to also highlight is Essec has a concept of chairs. Basically, students, these are company-sponsored research projects. So if you, I'm not quite sure, what particular industry or area of focus that you would like to pursue, the chairs are a very good way for students to understand, that industry better. So for example, have a chair with LVMH. So for students who want to get into the luxury market, then they can do a LVMH chair. It is taken as an elective for 6 months. Students will be working directly with the company to understand, how the company is operating or how that specific industry, the inside of that. Or there are chairs with a center on business analytics. So students who are interested in consulting, perhaps they can join the Accenture chair. Or for sports management, we work with, a football club, PSG, for students who are interested to get some, in hands-on or insight from different areas. So there are many chairs that is available for students to explore what particular job field that they would like to pursue when they graduate. So a very quick, let me introduce our example of our student. So this is a very typical profile of MIM student. In this case, Supita, who's from Thailand, she's interested in luxury brand management. So her experience is more here targeted in that area. So her experience, she started her MIM degree in Singapore in 2017. So while she was there, she basically completed, the junior consultant experience, the projects, and then she received her first specialization, which is in business management in Asia. So for the first 9 months, she spent time in Singapore because, it was closer to home for her, and, she preferred to prepare herself better before she moved to Europe. Then basically after that, she moved, she got 3 job offers. So she got 3 internship offers. 2 of them were in Singapore, and then 1 was in Paris. So she decided to choose the one in Paris. She went to L'Oreal in Paris and did a 6 months internship. Then she started her second year in Sergi campus, basically a year later. And then during that time, she entered the LVMH chair. She did this experience to give her a chance also she find herself another internship with Christian Dior while she was there, and then completing the entire, the rest of her, requirement, academic requirement. And she recently, disregard what happened during COVID in the job market. She managed to find her a job in Singapore. So she recently moved back to Singapore and started working full-time at Louis Vuitton at the moment. So this is a typical MIM experience, MIM students that we have, and that's her story. So the remaining a statistic about the program, the company that we have. There are multiple job fair and events that is happening on campus. Students who will be able to meet these companies, usually in person or via Zoom at the moment, as well as there are all these are available on the Essec job portal that students will be able to see, what type of offer or opening that is available for Essec students. And MIM is a program that we don't require a particular background. So there's no prerequisite. Any students from any previous study can apply to. So we welcome anyone to join MIM, as long as they complete or they fulfill the admission requirement. So it's very standardized. I would say similar to other schools. The MIM application will require a CV, a motivation letter, recommendations. There will be an interview for everyone after they are shortlisted to the program. There's 4 rounds of application this year, and similarly, we finished our round 1 already, and then moving onward, the application will be open until end of April. That is pretty much it. So if you have interest to talk to any Essec students, we also have a portal that is on the website available called Essec Talk. Then you can speak directly to the student ambassador. That we welcome anyone who want to get to know the program better, to talk to the students directly, to get some insight from the student. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanya. Sorry. Hello. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can hear me. I have a few questions from the students. So somebody has asked, is there a possibility of a Gmat GRE waiver?
No, not anymore. So it is true that last year in round 4, the last round, Essec did give some flexibility for admission. I think most of the French school were similar, but we no longer offer waiver anymore. So students can take the online Gmat or GRE if they cannot find a test center that is available physically, but at least something that is required. So we don't offer a waiver.
Okay, there's one more question about scholarships. What are the scholarships that Essec would give to the students, and how do you apply for them?
Right. So we offer for internal scholarship, there is basically a diversity scholarship and an academic excellence scholarship. There is no application to these. During the admission review, the faculty or the admission committee will discuss, the profiles during the admission jury, and we will distribute the scholarship according to the profile of the student. So if you are non-French national, so let's say you are not a French student, usually then you will qualify for the diversity scholarship, and then it's based on the profile. In the application, based on GPA, Gmat, GRE score, students will receive the result together with the admission decision. So when you receive the result of the application, you will also know if you are getting scholarship from Essec or not. So these are the internal scholarship. Yeah, the external scholarship usually is the Afl, which is available for round 1.
Okay. There's one more question that came quite early. So will part-time work experience, like founding a startup during undergraduate or internship, count for total work experience?
It depends. So it would depend on admissions to see if they approve that experience or not. So the 1-year work experience requirement can be offset by previous experience. So if the students apply and they may have, let's say at least 1 or 2 years of work experience by the time they join the MIM program, those experience can be offset the professional experience requirement. So it's actually for those, they don't have to do internship anymore. They can graduate the program in 15 months. So they can graduate much faster. But then for international students, a lot of them would still prefer to do it because it's a good way for them to get connections and to get more experience, overseas. So for the student visa that we offer in Singapore as well as in France, they can work. So in Singapore, students can work up to 16 hours per week. So if they would like to join the campus here, for example, they can take on part-time jobs. Some of them do, it can be a small job like babysitting, or they can take on small, consulting projects, whatever they find to make some pocket money, basically.
Okay. Final question from my side is, could you tell us more about the apprenticeship a little bit more? Yeah.
So apprenticeship is I'll try to explain the best way I can. I think the French may be able to explain it much better than me. But for example, these are jobs. To understand them, basically apprenticeship is students will have to apply. There are many of them hosted in the ESSEC portal. So we don't encourage students to rely on them as a financing option, because we don't know if you will receive an apprenticeship or not until you started the program. So you cannot rely on them to cover your tuition or to cover your living expenses. But basically, apprenticeship is a good way for students to get experience and exposure. So usually it's at least a year long. So they would be studying and working at the same time, or depends on the arrangement with the company. They can do it, for example, 3 months studying and then 3 months working, and 3 months studying, 3 months working. So it depends on the company and the arrangement of the company. But then they do need to commit about a year in total in working in these French companies. So usually they would require a level of French, but it's not a must. It's not mandatory. So it depends on the company itself also. If the position is offered to non-French speaking student. So the best part of apprenticeship is once you are offered a position, for example, then the company will be paying for the tuition fee. So students will get refund back to them their entire tuition fee. And then on top of that, they get a monthly salary. So it's a great way to get experience and also to get financing support by the company. But of course, it is there is opportunity cost. If you decided to do that, usually they will have to stretch the program to 3 years or even longer, because they will have to fulfill all the academic requirement, and then on top of that they are doing this work experience. So the opportunity cost is they cannot start working, they cannot start their full-time job as quickly as their classmates. So it's something to consider if it is a good option for the student. So ESSEC do host all those information in the ESSEC portal. So it's for all students, including international students, to apply for the apprenticeship.
So basically, they explained the apprenticeship very well. So it's a way for you to work and study at the same time. It's a bit like a part-time MBA somehow, where you work and you study. The only question that I have is that I don't know if you're a non-European student.
Yes.
If you can get a visa, if your visa allows you to work as much as required. Maybe yes, maybe no. I have no idea.
Yes, for now, it is very common also for ESSEC students to get apprenticeship, and because the way that the program is so flexible, so we do have a lot of international students get apprenticeship. So the student visa that we offer will enable the students to do that. It's just like any internship or part-time job that they may get during their study. They do have to wait until after being in France for 1 year to officially start their apprenticeship. So that is something to keep in mind. So if you are a European student or if you have a European passport, then those students can start apprenticeship quite early, like I think after 6 months or so, they can start it much earlier. But for non-European students, they will have to wait until they have lived in France for at least 1 year to officially start the apprenticeship. So let's say if you have an offer that is available, you cannot start until that 1 year mark has started. So usually for students who are keen on trying for apprenticeship, we would recommend them to start in France, not Singapore.
So that Indian students understand, so you have to see that your French companies based in France, because they can be Chinese or Indian, they pay a certain tax. There's a tax on training, okay? And basically, it's all called a PCA, and then it means that the ESSEC will receive money from the state somehow, okay? It's the Ministry of Labor that manage that. So ESSEC will receive money from that, and for the company, they will pay you. You get something like 1,200, 1,300 euros, which is very good money. But of course, cost of living in France is quite expensive. And companies, there's a tax exemption, so they don't have to pay any social tax on that. Okay, so of course it's a good way for them to get a very bright person from ESSEC at a very low cost, and it doesn't cost them a lot of money. Because I may wonder, probably some Indian students may say, but how is it possible to get 50,000 a year there? Because part is paid by French tax, and the other part is paid by the company that has tax exemption on social tax. And that's why it's very interesting for the student and also very interesting for the company. Okay. So yes, let's come back to that. Since you see on this conference, you have many African and European and Indian students, a great majority of Indian students. It's also a great advantage of the 2-year program. Can you mention, for instance, at HEC, the gap year? How does it work, the gap year? What is a gap year? And is it common or not common at HEC, Leonor?
Yes, the gap year is very common at HCC because of this practical approach during the first year. The students really want to enhance their work experience during this gap year. The gap year is it's quite flexible. The student can choose to do, for example, 2 internships of 6 months, or they can also choose to work on a personal project. For example, they have a project of launching a startup. They can do it also during their gap year. And they can also do internship abroad. So it's really flexible. I have an example, for example, of a student who started with a consulting internship in Dubai. And then he did a New York internship with finance. So it's really a way to just explore some fields and to straighten your career objectives, enhance your network, and enhance your work experience.
So you see, I have 2 sons. One is at HEC, the other one at ESCP. And what they did is that after the internship, the apprenticeship, they got a job offer. So during the gap year, so it's a bit like an MBA in the US, where you have during the summer internship. So basically, they have a 1 year internship gap year. After that, they receive a job offer. Usually, they get 2 to 3 internships at the same time. But what you have to understand, if you do a gap year, I'm talking to my Indian students, you get a normal salary. For instance, my son, when he was at Rothschild, he was paid 1,800 per month. And then when he went to work for Lafayette Investment in New York, he was paid 4 times that. You see? So it's so you have to see that if you do gap year, it's not like an internship. You make real money, you get a real salary. It's something important. By the way, that's something that our Indian students have to know. If you get accepted to such schools, financing is not an issue. Okay. Now, Sonia, how do students finance, especially from India? How do they finance their studies? You have some statistics, some research on that. How does it work?
I don't have the statistic with me, but basically Essec has scholarship available, and there's also prodigy finance, which is a student loan that is, I know, quite common for Indian students. So if you are admitted into Essec, for example, you can apply to this prodigy loan. It will cover 80% of your tuition fee and part of your living expenses as well. So obviously, we are not affiliated, by no means that ESSEC is working with them. But all ESSEC students, or I know a lot of universities are also working for, a part of their the list. So any students from these schools who are entering this program will be able to apply for a student loan to pursue their study. So that's usually a common financing option. And then, of course, there's also small jobs like part-time jobs that is available. They can work on campus if they like, or they can find, small part-time jobs outside of campus also.
Okay. There's another question that I want to ask you. So it's for Eleonore. So can you tell us what is the famous PSB? So how does it work when you're a non-European community student and you want to stay a bit more? So how long more are you allowed to stay after having completed your studies at HEC, for instance?
Well, you can stay 1 year after the program, thanks to your student visa, especially if you did an internship before getting employed in a company in France. This allows you to keep the student visa during 1 year. And most of the time, the students get employed then in another company, and the company take over the visa process. So it's not, as I would say, the biggest issue for the students because they have their visa, student visa, and then they get the help of the company and of HEC to get a working visa, another type of visa. There is a lot of different visa available for students graduating from business schools. According also to your major, according to the fact that if you want, for example, to launch a company, but we will provide you support in any case for the visa.
Okay, so what is very important, what our Indian students have to understand, is that basically you have 3 options. Either you decide to go back to India, which of course would be a bit stupid because you should take advantage that you're in Europe to stay in Europe or stay in Singapore. And then basically the second, of course, the most optimistic option is that you get the job offer and then it's done. Hence the advantage of the summer internship and maybe the apprenticeship or the gap year, because of course, if you have an apprenticeship or a gap year, you're almost certain to receive a job offer. Okay. And if it doesn't work, what you can do is you can go to see an employer. Okay. And you can say to the employer that anyway, you'll be exempt visa-free for a year, so they can hire you. Then you leave the company enough time to test you. And after 6 months, if it works well, then they will start the visa process. Okay. And you have to understand that if you're ESSEC or INSEAD or HEC graduate, yes, of course, they are somehow affected by the current crisis. But of course, this type of graduates are highly in demand. Okay, you have to understand that when companies are facing problems, they need the best to work with them. They need the best, the most intelligent, the most motivated. Okay, and that's usually they do. You have perfectly seen my company. You see, even when you're in this difficult time like now, for any small and medium-sized business, even for the big ones, you need the best in your company. Okay. The those who are going to have problems are people who are less performing. The those who perform well, they should be more problem. Okay. So now, well, we couldn't get inside today, so we asked Alexandra to come. So Alexandra was my student. Okay. By the way, she's an ESSEC MBA graduate to start with, so she went to ESSEC, and she got accepted to INSEAD. So can you tell me more about your background, because you have an unusual nationality? Okay, I'm sure that most Indian students, they don't even know where to put your country on the map. Okay, but you speak many languages.
Yes, so hello, I'm Alexandra. I'm from Moldova originally, but I decided to do my bachelor's degree at ESSEC in France. I've had the chance to also visit the Singapore campus, which was really nice. And afterwards, I decided to continue my studies with the MIM program. I was Hubert's student, so we applied for LBS, HEC, St. Gallen and INSEAD, and eventually I selected INSEAD for personal preferences. The process went very well. It was a very thorough discussion about the career plans that I envisage after the master's. Also the different structures of the programs, because as you know, HEC and ESSEC, for instance, have these 2-year programs, whereas LBS and INSEAD are very fast-paced courses, programs that last for about 10 months. I've also had the opportunity to visit the INSEAD campus, and I really liked the atmosphere and the diversity of the professors and the students, and eventually decided to pursue my studies there. I was supposed to be part of the Pioneer promotion. So I was supposed to start this year actually, but I deferred due to the pandemic. And I also got accepted to LBS. When I had these 2 acceptance letters, I stopped the process with St. Gallen, and yeah, HEC rejected me.
Okay, yeah. So we see that how it works. So basically, Alessandra, you know, you have already a BBA from ESSEC, which
Yes.
is of course a great degree. Where have you decided to continue studies for a master's? Because I know that you took a gap year before starting INSEAD, and you're working for KPMG or Ernst & Young?
No, I'm currently working for Deloitte, but I'm in the process with some consulting firms. So starting from next week, I'm going to be in the process. I don't want to say too many things, but I think it's going to be an asset on my CV, and it's going to give me the possibility to actually secure an even better internship after INSEAD, because as we all know, or you might not know, but actually the new MIM program was created by MBB. So they were very involved in designing the curriculum, and I currently have friends who are doing the MIM, and they are very impressed by the academic level, which is super intense, and they're learning a lot. Yeah, I'm actually switching slowly towards consulting, and I want to work in this industry, and I genuinely think that INSEAD is gonna help me secure that. Due to the knowledge that I'm going to get, and also the network, which is very valuable.
But Deloitte, it's already, you work in audit more than in consulting? Yeah.
I currently work in audit, but I want to work in consulting.
Yeah, but because Deloitte, it could be consulting as well. Huh?
Yeah, but it's a different kind of consulting, and the level of prestige is also different. And this learning curve as well. You get to learn way more at MBB rather than Deloitte.
Yeah, of course, I understand. So how long did you take for the process? How long did it take to prepare the Gmat, the application?
So to be completely honest, I started preparing the Gmat pretty well in advance when I was doing my internship after the 3rd year. So it took me actually 6 months, but I prepared it by myself. So I didn't know Hubert by then. So I actually tried all the different resources possible. I've tried Manhattan, Kaplan. I've tried some French Gmat tutors. I've tried Veritas Prep, and it took me quite a long time. I actually took the Gmat twice. And overall, it took me 6 months to prepare the Gmat. And afterwards, I started the application process in January. And I applied for the 3rd round. So basically, I started receiving my admission offers in April.
Okay. So, and what did you find most difficult in the process?
Well, for me, Gmat was quite stressful, but as well, the difficult part was actually choosing among the choices that I had, because in the beginning, I actually wanted to do St. Gallen because I've seen the rankings and it was the best in strategy and international management. But then when I visited INSEAD and I've seen the potential that the program has, I actually changed my mind. So The choice was really tough because all of the programs that I applied to were really good. And I really had to think about which one to choose depending on my career path. And yeah.
By the way, last year we got about 10 students accepted to INSEAD and only 2 chose the program, okay? So basically, of course, the program has a lot of strengths. At the same time, you have to see that INSEAD is a super costly program and you have no apprenticeship possible. And they have an internship, but the internship is at the end of the program, okay? And the other problem that you have with INSEAD, the program is still not ranked, okay? So it's true that now there's a fierce competition. That's something, by the way, we had a meeting with the team yesterday, and we see that now the growth is in the MIM. Of course, the French business school like HEC, Essec, ESCP are very well equipped for that because it is what we call the Grande École program. So there's a long tradition, okay? And we have been lucky that this MIM develops, okay? Because for a long time, the MIM was not something that we could sell internationally, okay? And of course, we have seen a soar. So now look, we have 20 students from India for meeting on somehow French MIMs, even though ESSEC or INSEAD have campuses outside France, they are still originally with French roots. And so that's the brand that we still have. So tell me, there was no issue with the cost and with the program structure, the one-year program. Was it an issue or not for you?
Well, it is an issue and I still don't know how I'm going to solve it. But you have financing opportunities, you have brand capital, and you have prodigy finance. So I don't think, I mean, in terms of cost, if you compare it to ESSEC or HEC, for instance, it's pretty much the same because you have to pay for 2 years. I mean, the cost of living, you have to spend money for 2 years while you're studying, and I think in the end it's more or less the same.
Okay, it's an important thing to see
because finding an apprenticeship, it's not impossible, but if you don't speak French fluently, it's quite difficult. It's quite competitive to secure an apprenticeship, so I wouldn't recommend relying on that.
It depends, but you can learn French. For instance, I have many of my students from Delhi who are attending Alliance Française courses. So they expect to be like B2 before starting, and then they want to increase to C1 after 1 or 2 years, it's a great, we have many Indian students at the Alliance Française in Delhi. Okay, I don't know if they have classes or online, but they go. So tell me, what was the admission process at INSEAD? So what was, is it comparable to the one that we have seen with ESSEC or HEC? Was it a bit different?
I would say it was more or less the same, but there are still quite some differences because they really want to see you as a diverse candidate, and they don't put that much stress on your academic performance compared to the other 2 schools, which are very academic performance oriented. I remember I spoke to the program director during the open days, and he also stressed this idea of being diverse and having an open-minded attitude and having different experiences. For instance, right now, my friends who are doing actually the MIM have a super diverse class. They have people who have done social sciences, people who have done even drama. So the program is really focused on diversity. You really had to show that you are a well-rounded candidate and that you have international exposure, because in the end, INSEAD is the business school for the world. So it doesn't have, for instance, as they said during the open days, this cultural dominance of different students. They try to make sure that the cohort is as diverse as possible. So there is no dominant culture that you tend to observe in the other business schools. For instance, when I was at ESSEC, there are Asian students and Indian students predominantly. from the international student cohort, whereas at INSEAD, they make sure that the cohort is really well balanced from that standpoint.
Yeah. Tell me, Eleanor, I see that you did not really agree, and I cannot really agree as well, because I have lots of students who have been accepted to HEC who had good grades, but were not like, obviously they have not been selected for the grades. So what is your policy with the grade? Is there a no-go, or up to where are you ready to go with a student?
Well, it's a bit like the Gmat exam or the management test exam. We don't ask for a minimum grade, and it's really, as I was saying previously, the well combination of academic excellence, motivation, work experience, international exposure, and the Gmat score that is going to be important for us. So I was not completely agreeing with Alexandra when she told that academic excellence was the only criteria we were looking at HCC Paris, because I have example of students. For example, accepted in the Master in Management, or for example, coming from political science with like average grades, but they have an outstanding profile with a really interesting work experience, international exposure. And what I agree with Alexandra, and that we also look at HCC Paris, would be the soft skills, especially during the interview and thanks to the AC questions. So it's also important for us to have open-minded candidates who are able to manage and to be at ease in an international context, because it's a very international environment that we have at HCC Paris. Leadership also is something that we're going to evaluate and assess in the application process. And yes, leadership, team spirit, and diversity are the three main soft skills that we are also going to assess in the application process. So yes, just to complete.
What the Indian students should know is that there are two things, and they are pretty well aware of that. Is that, for instance, if you apply in a UK program, it's true that, for instance, school like LSE, like Imperial, they ask you for a minimum grade. Okay, basically you need to be, I would say, a top 10% student. Okay, so basically, even if you have great leadership, great international exposure, you cannot get into LSE or Imperial College. Okay, so for instance, I had students who didn't have the grades to even apply to these schools, okay, and who got LBS or INSEAD or other schools that are present here. So basically, I can say from the outside that these schools are pretty open-minded, because probably, I don't know if they would agree, but the Gmat compensates a lot. Imagine that you're so student because you are involved in many extracurricular activities, you love sport, you love drama, etc. But then you get a 700, it will compensate, and HEC will understand that you wanted to spend your time doing something else. The fact is now that you have to understand that this school, HEC, ESSEC, ESCP, they recruit a lot from preparatory classes, okay? And it's true that in some stage, they don't want some schools, some programs to allow people to avoid the preparatory classes, okay, to do a BBA program and then switch to some of these classes. That's what I've noticed. So you have to understand that basically what you have to understand, so for the audience that is here, is that basically these schools, they want to attract the best students in the world, okay? You're not French, okay, so you didn't go to preparatory classes, okay? So basically, they want to attract you when you're 20, 21, okay? And they want to attract the best, okay? And of course, the criteria there are very different from the criteria that they have with students who are 18, 19 years old, okay? They use different criteria, because when you have I remember when my son had an interview with HEC, when he was 19 years old, there was very little about leadership, for instance. Okay, it was basically about knowledge. Okay, so it was a different type of thing. But you have to understand that these schools are foster academic excellence. Okay, you have to see that they are reputable institutions. HEC was created in the 19th century. Okay. Essec, I don't even know, at the beginning of the 20th century, probably. So, okay, you have to understand that the former president of France is an HCC graduate, okay? That they have one of the former prime minister of France where ESCP graduates, the guy who is managing the Brexit for the European Commission is an ESCP graduate, okay, Michel Barnier, etc. So these schools, they foster academic excellence. And it's true that a school like INSEAD has much more freedom in the way they collaborate. For instance, you have to see, Alexandra, that if you're HEC and if you say we have decided to launch a program in collaboration with McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, okay, they will say great, but also we need to make sure that the degree is recognized by the states. Okay, they have different accrediting bodies. So of course, it's always the advantage, okay, of being a private organization versus of being so basically, I don't know if I'm but you know that Essec and ESCP belong to the Chamber of Commerce. And they are financed by the Chamber of Commerce, HCC by the Chamber of Commerce of Paris, okay, and Essec by the Chamber of Commerce of the Val d'Oise, which is a department a bit outside France. And because of that, so they have advantages, okay, they receive money, okay, from them, but also there are also restrictions that are given by the accreditation body, by the French state, by the Chamber of Commerce, etc., that have a word to say because they have been financing this organization for more than a century for HEC, and they have their word to say. That's what makes them very, very powerful. Voilà. Okay. Sonia, maybe a word from Essec. So yes, you agree with me that at the same time, yes, you foster academic excellence. But what do you do yourself? You're Singaporean. Where are you from? You're from Singapore, Sonia? Where are you from? You're from Singapore?
Hong Kong. I'm from Hong Kong originally. Yep, I live in Singapore.
So you agree? So what do you do to foster international exposure in your program?
Well, living in Singapore is actually a very international experience itself. Of course, the student body, right? I would say they do have a lot of, among students, they definitely have a very diverse group itself that they have to work together on projects, and they a lot of time cannot choose their own teammates. The faculty will assign and force different nationality to work together, for example, in a lot of these consulting projects that is part of the program. And then for international exposure, there is a study trip that is pretty much involved in part of every program. MIM and other, finance or data science program, they go outside of the campus. In Singapore, they go to Hong Kong or New York for finance. For example, for MIM, they also went to Hong Kong, and sometimes they go to Shanghai to meet with companies and Essec alumni. So what we do is we usually will select a committee of students, and then we give them the alumni contact information or the corporate partners that we have. And then students reach out to these companies directly and to schedule the visit. So also a chance for them to connect with these companies personally and to arrange a visit. So having a physical campus in Singapore, that's what we do. And also same as in France, so they do the study trip, go outside of Paris, and they meet different companies and organizations to get to know what they do, and also to meet the alumni in those regions usually.
Okay, very good. And also what you have to see, Alexandra, that I did my master and my PhD after having graduated from École Normale Supérieure. I did my master and my PhD at Harvard. And when I was at Harvard, there were lots of Americans. And I can tell you that at the beginning, I didn't feel very, even though they said they are very international, it was not that international. There are many guys from Boston, many Americans. So I had probably the same feeling as when you arrive. It's always true that when you have a school that has roots somewhere, and Harvard has roots in America, Essec has roots in France, and so is HCC, that you're going to come in a school that has roots, which is not the case of INSEAD, which is a purely international school. So of course, it's a very different approach. But I think that at the same time, you can hear from my accent, my Indian students, that I'm French. So you're going to come in a nice country, one of the greatest countries in the world, with quality of life. French are, I believe, kind people, relatively intelligent, educated. I live in Belgium now, and I can see the difference. So probably say that Belgians are probably kinder in some way, but you will not have the same quality of exchange. French are fond of arts, politics as well. So if you want to go, so it's also good to go in a country. For instance, me, if I decide to study at ISB or IIT, I also want to experience India. You understand? I don't want to be in a place that is like a sort of Disneyland with no roots, no identity. Okay, so I want to be in a place that has an identity. If I decide to study at, I don't know, in China, I want to feel that I'm in China as well. If I study, when I went to study, when I went to Harvard myself, I wanted to be in America. I didn't want to be in a place. I didn't want to be like a place like INSEAD that has no identity, no cultural identity. I wanted to be in America. Imagine that Indian students want to come here. They also want to learn French. You see, Alexandra, many students who are learning French. They also want to live in Europe. They also want to have their roots in Europe somehow. They know they will go back to India, but they want to make this experience. Well, that's where we are. Okay.
I think it's a personal preference because I already speak French and I've already experienced the French business school experience. So I wanted
of course,
that would complement my education. So it's a matter of choice.
Yeah, but what I want to say is that you see a lot of students who come to study in Europe, they also want to experience Europe and they also want to experience something real. So I have a student who wants to experience Italy because she loves Italy. I have other students who wants to experience Germany because they want to live there. Okay, so it's important to talk of internationalism, but at the same time, when you come to HEC or Essec, and if you study at Essec Sergi Pontoise or Hcc Paris, you will also have something, you'll be in a very international atmosphere, but something with roots as well, with an history, with a culture, with an identity. And this identity is one of the strongest identity that we have in Europe, with the British one and with the German one. Okay. So basically, last word for Anand. Anand.
Yeah. I'm here.
Anand runs the Gmat Test Prep Center. He's one of our partners in India. He's a Gmat teacher. So basically, you have a lot of requests for Europe from your students, or is it increasing? The interest is increasing.
I'm speaking to a student so far. Yeah. So far, not much students are there, but still I'm working on the marketing side and all. I'm getting the students, speaking to them personally, visiting various societies and all. So let's see over the period of time, it will come definitely.
But how much demand have you got for European school? You think it's picking up, or what do you think?
Sorry, come again, can't hear.
Do you have demand for European programs picking up?
Yeah.
And programs, yeah. You see demands picking up for HEC, INSEAD, Essec. Is it something that you see picking up?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you, what do they like about coming to study in Europe, in a European program? What do you think they like? What do you think Indians like in this?
They like, basically, they're more about the faculty side and how's the job opportunities. First of all, that's most important. And where do they see after MBAs and all, how's the job market, whether there's any stay back opportunities or not, which we always keep on saying. 2 years, some countries give 2 years, some countries give after work, you can stay there for a longer period of time. So they're keen for that. Mostly they're interested in the college and how's the course structure, faculty over there, whether they'll get the exposure to that subject which they are choosing or not. So many questions keeps coming up. Yeah.
So yeah, because I see many names. I see many names here, but what I want to say for you, Eleonore, for you, Alexandra, for you, Sonia, is that now I have students and parents who call me and say, I want my son to study in Europe. They are very clear. They don't want to hear about Canada. They don't want to hear about US. They say, we know that they will have a great experience. It's safe. They will find a job. There's a visa. It's stable. So basically, Europe is attractive. You have to see. So it's very, very common that I've never seen, for instance, for MIM, I've never seen someone who told me I want to do my MIM in America. No. And even now for MBAs, they tend to favor Europe. But I know there was Palak with our student, for instance, who is preparing his admissions for HEC, Essec, ESCP, and INSEAD. So I would like him to but yes, you have to see there's a lot of demand. By the way, there was Anushka, she's not here anymore, she left, because you have to see it's Tiwali, Eleonore, and Sonia. like our Christmas for us. Okay. Yes, because they have a fireworks, so there's a lot of noise. So, do you see the interest for European programs increasing, Anand? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. They told me that our Indian students are Gmat class now. Yeah.
Yeah, due to the festive season, many people are staying now at their hometowns. So I'm expecting in the over a period of time, they'll come back here in Bangalore so that I can access them in a group. That's what I'm planning to the next, right?
Okay.
So that I can guide them properly with a nice presentation and all those things. Once they're back here.
So, sorry, most of our Indian students are leaving because we have a Gmat class at 10:30. So they stayed at Gmat class 7 minutes ago. So it was very nice to have you. So we talked this afternoon to European students. Okay.
Yeah.
So of course, me, I would say I like to give the final word. So, but first of all, I'm very happy because when I started MBA Center, we are many sending students to top US MBA. So many Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, etc. The M7 probably. And of course, it was interesting to see how the market has evolved. And of course, I remember that when I started, they were putting forward, all my friends was putting forward, Hubert is French, but he went to Harvard. So there was like, okay, he's not very legitimate, but he went to Harvard, so don't worry, he knows the thing. And now the fact that I'm French is helping a lot in this business because I have so many people applying for MIM, okay? And plus, since I have a son, 2 of my sons are in top French business schools, I can really share that from within. And when I talk to parents, because now I'm 50 years old, so I talk to parents. So basically, I talk to people who are my age, and then I share my experience of my kids studying at ESCP and HEC, and they got and they like that. By the way, Sonia, my 2 sons didn't get Essec. Okay, they didn't. So you have to see that Essec it's very difficult to get in. It's very difficult to get in as a high school student, if you want. If you see what I mean, to take preparatory classes, you need to be a top of the top, really top of the top. So basically, it's very interesting to see that now being French is a plus because we somehow dominate this market. Okay, and of course because we have a culture of excellence. And what I find interesting is that people, you say, and they come here for jobs, but also they want to discover culture. Okay, I know that a lot of people stay, and I'm very surprised that when they revert to me, for instance, I'm very surprised that sometimes they write to me in French. My Indian students, they try to write a sentence in French, okay, which is great. Okay, it means they are trying to get to know the culture. Okay, so they will get to know the things. So they tell me one word, merci, s'il vous plaît, this type of thing. So they try to learn and they go to Alliance Française and they are very, very happy. And I always say to the parents, if your kids speak 2 European languages, English and French or English and German, it's a big plus for them to say. Okay. Well,
Right.
It was very nice to talk to you. Okay, we'll have another one. Okay, with things, and of course, it's very interesting to see the interest that we can raise from India. Okay, a last word, Anand, maybe because you have been waiting for one hour and a half. A last word. What would you say? We're motivated by MIMs. What would you say?
Definitely. I'm trying my best. Let's see.
Okay, do them. So
I'm circulating all the posters which I keep getting from you guys. I keep circulating among the students so that they can come to know what MBA Center is doing.
Okay, right? Yes, of course. Nice. Yeah. So thank you very much, Sonia. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Okay, and thank you very much, Eleonore. So I will see you later on at 3:30 this afternoon. There will be about 30 to 40 students because, of course, we are stronger. And now MBA Center is developing a lot in Latin America. But, of course, Latin America is still another story now to develop. But we have demands, and we are now developing, as you see, a lot in Chile and Peru. Okay, but with big centers. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye bye.